Okay. Um, we'll get ready for the final talk. So we're going to pray in the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. So we borrow your holy and divine will, God, and we'll pray 3 times. I am nothing, you are everything. Empty me of my nothingness, fill me with your everything, God. I am nothing, you are everything, God. Empty me of my nothingness and fill me with your everything. I am nothing, you are everything, God. Empty me of my nothingness, fill me with your everything. Jesus, I love you with your will. Jesus, I love you with your will. Jesus, I love you with your will. Okay, so that's to keep us aware that we've got to keep on working on humility. Just keep on working and working and working on humility. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. So, as knowledge of living in my will becomes more and more disseminated, so will it be loved more and more. So we're going to deal with that. And I've got that out of volume 14. If you want the reference, volume 14, October 19, 1922. So volume 14, October 19, 1922. So I'm not going to read the whole thing, I'm just going to read the relevant part, and then we just do what we can within the time. So what we're planning on doing is having 45 minutes of this talk. We'll get up and stretch our legs. We'll come back and we'll have 45 minutes of question and answer. And we're going to be finishing off. Maxine's going to be finishing off a few things. And then we've got our lunch at 12:30. Okay, so the better one knows something, the more useful it can be. So this is what Jesus is telling Louise Picaretta. The better one knows something, the more useful it can be. That's what we're working on here. The better we know God's holy and divine will, the more useful it can be. When 2 people sell 2 objects of equal value, he who knows the object well can sell it for a greater price and earn a greater profit, whereas the other object, whose owner does not know it well, is sold for less and produces less profit. How many things can be gained from knowledge? Okay, how many things can be gained from knowledge? Many become rich because they are careful to know what they sell. Others in similar circumstances are poor because they do not know what they sell. Now, since I want to unite you with me in the internal acts done by my humanity, it is only fair that I instruct you in their worth, their effects, their power, and in the manner in which my will acts. As I manifest these things to you, I also open the possibility of participating with me in what I reveal to you. Otherwise, why reveal these things to you? Is it merely to proclaim some news? No. When I reveal something, it is because I want to give. We know God is the greatest giver. When he reveals something to us in the knowledges of the divine will, he wants to give us that. Thus, the more you come to know the worth of the divine will and its effects, the more I will have given you. Therefore, pay attention to the great good that I want to do, not only to you, but also to others. That's us, we're the others. As knowledge of living in my will becomes more and more disseminated, so will it be loved more and more. And for those who love my will, their love will absorb all the good which their knowledge of my will, like a fertile mother, will have engendered in them. Okay, I'm not a God of isolation. No, I want creatures united with me. The echo of my will must resonate in their will, and the echo of their will in mine, to make them into one. I've waited so many centuries to manifest my will acting in creatures, and theirs in mine. because in so doing I would elevate them almost to my same level. Wow. He's saying it there, okay? I'll read that sentence again. I've waited so many centuries, this is Jesus talking, I've waited so many centuries to manifest my will, acting in creatures, and theirs in mine, because in so doing I would elevate them almost to my same level. Okay, because we know there's not going to be a fourth person of the Blessed Trinity, but almost to my same level. There's no way to the Father except through me, Jesus says, okay? So I needed to prepare the creatures and dispose them to progress from the lesser knowledge to the greater knowledge. That's what I like doing. I think that God's given me that to at least be able to help people with. Always get the foundation right. If you're floating around in nebulation, nebulous land up there, and the foundation's not right, it's not real. So we've got to get our foundation really strong. And I'm pretty sure most of you have got that with your faith, Thank God we've got our faith because it gives us that strong foundation if we really take it seriously. Keep building on those things so we never neglect the things that we know are important in our faith. We just reinforce them and reinforce them. And when we're guiding other people into the divine will, we've got to check, have you got your foundations right before you start floating in the clouds, right, with this divine will? Because that can happen. It's like, wow, this is just spiritually so elevating, right? It's just amazing, right? But it's got to be grounded. It really has to be grounded so it's really strong, really firm. We're really connecting with God, okay? I acted as a teacher who must first teach students the vowels. I'll just go back because otherwise we'll lose track. I have waited so many centuries to manifest my will, acting in creatures, and theirs in mine, because in so doing I would elevate them almost to my same level. So I needed to prepare creatures and dispose them to progress from the lesser knowledge to the greater knowledge. I acted as a teacher who must first teach students the vowels and the consonants before progressing to the writing of compositions. It is thus that I will unfold life in my will. Okay. So we move on. What we're going to do is what I'm going to do here is we're going to continue with learning the knowledge, because that's the way. So I've selected a few things. There's no way I'm going to get through them because of the time, so I'm not going to rush it. We're just going to go slowly with whatever time we've got to get a few important things out there. When I heard this, so this is the next one, is same volume. It's November 6, 1922. November 6, 1922. When I heard this, I said to him, my love, when she heard something else, right, because I'm not going to read all the part before it. My love and my life, I still cannot convince myself. How is it possible that there has been no saint who always did your will and who lived in your will in the manner which you describe? That's the question we always have when we come new to the divine will. It's going to be the same question others are going to have. How come no other saint has already done this, lived in your divine will? Jesus replied, my daughter, you still do not want to accept that one can only receive as much light, grace, truth and worth as one is able to know and understand. It is true that there have been saints who always did my will, but they have taken of my will only to the extent that they understood it. Right, the knowledge, they've taken of his will only to the extent that they understood it. They knew that to do my will was the greatest of acts, the one which gave me the greatest honour and which brought them their sanctification. They acted with this intention, and so this is all that they received. When he says they acted with intention, he means they acted with this intention. He's looking at our intention. He's reading our heart always. That's all they knew. So they're acting with that intention. God hadn't manifested the other knowledge that we've got access to. Thank God we're living in this time. We have access to this amazing spiritual knowledge that God wants to give us. They acted with this intention, and so this is all that they received. It is true that there is no holiness without my will, and no good, no sanctity, either great or small, can exist without it. Know also that my will, as it was, is, and shall be, has not changed at all, but it can reveal the variety of the colours, effects and worth which it contains differently according to the way in which it manifests itself. Furthermore, my will does not merely manifest itself, it also gives to the soul the variety of its colours, of its effects and of its worth. If this were not so, then why make these things known? My will has behaved like a great lord who exhibits one of the most extensive and sumptuous palaces. To a first group of people, he points out the way to reach the palace. To a second group, he points out the portals by which to enter the palace. To a third group, he points out the staircase by which to reach the rooms. To a fourth group, a few rooms. To the last group, he opens all the rooms and makes them owners of the palace itself and of all that is within it. So he's giving us an analogy there of how we're going to make progress. It's all stage by stage by stage. So he's talking about the history of salvation, just by talking about using the analogy of the palace. Can't go deep into that, so I'm going to move on to another one. This is volume 6, December 24, 1903. December 24, 1903. So, we're just going to refresh what I was saying that first talk. Jesus says, learn the knowledge of my holy and divine will. When we know how valuable it is, we want it. We desire it. That's our will. Wow, God, your will is so great. I would love to have your will operate with my will, right? That's what he wants. So learn the knowledge. We're learning the knowledge. Learning knowledge. Always learning knowledge. Learning more and more and more knowledge of his holy and divine will. Learning how more and more wonderful it is, right? Because God's infinite. Desiring it more and more and more and more. So that's our part. The part we do is we learn it. We learn how wonderful it is. We desire it more and more and more. So increase our desire. This is what we're going to do. Increase our desire. We increase our desire by learning more and more of how valuable it is. The more value we see in it, the more we desire it. The more we desire it, the more we desire it. And then what happens is, he says, borrow it. Borrow it. Borrow it and borrow it and borrow it and borrow it. Now I'm going to go, this is the early days, volume 6, where he's talking about desire, okay? This morning, as I was in my usual state, baby Jesus came, and on seeing him, so very little, as if he were just born, I said to him, my pretty little one, what was the cause? Who made you come from heaven to be born so little in the world? And he, the reason was love. The reason God came to this world because of love. The reason he created us because of love. It's all about love, okay? So the reason was love. Not only this, but my birth in time was the outpouring of love of the most holy Trinity toward creatures. In an outpouring of love of my mother, I was born from her womb, and in an outpouring of love, I was reborn in souls. But this outpouring is formed by desire. Okay? This outpouring, right, of love, I am reborn in souls, right? An outpouring of love, I am born in souls, reborn in souls. Reborn in souls, he's saying. But this outpouring is formed by desire. So this is the part now I want you to focus on, what the next few sentences. As soon as the soul begins to desire me, I am conceived. What was our lady doing? She was desiring the Messiah. He was conceived physically in her. As soon as the soul begins to desire me, I am conceived. The more she advances in her desire, so we advance in our desire, the more she advances in her desire, the more I keep growing in the soul. And when this desire fills her whole interior and reaches the point of overflowing outside, then I am reborn in the whole of man, in his mind, in his mouth, in his works and steps. Okay, very important. I'll read that bit again. So as soon as the soul begins to desire me, I am conceived. So as soon as we learned about the knowledge of God's holy and divine will and thought, wow, this is great. I desire more of this. I desire your holy and divine will, God. That's the point. Jesus is being conceived in us. He hasn't fully grown, right? But he's conceived. It's the starting point. That's the green light. We've given God the green light and it's like, away we go. The more she advances in her desire, the more I keep growing in the soul, right? There's continuous progress through our increased desire. The more that she advances in her desire, the more I keep growing in the soul. And when this desire fills her whole interior and reaches to the point of overflowing outside, then I am reborn in the whole of man, in his mind, in his mouth, in his works and steps. Okay. Volume 16. February 10, 1924. So volume 16, February 10, 1924. He's talking about how complete abandonment in me is necessary in order to live in my will. So complete abandonment. I'm going to read the whole message. Part of it I'll read relatively quickly and I'll slow down for what I think is the significant part to focus more on. I was thinking to myself about all that was written in these past days. I said to myself that they were neither necessary nor serious things. I could have done without putting them on paper, but obedience wanted it so, and I had the duty to say fiat, also in this, so let it be done. But as I was thinking about this, my beloved Jesus told me, yet, my daughter, everything was necessary in order to make known how to live in my will. But by not saying everything, some quality of how to live in it would be missing, and therefore the writings could not have the full effect of the living in my will. For example, on the abandonment of living in my will, if the soul did not live completely abandoned in my will, she would be like a person who lived in a sumptuous palace and now leaned out of a window, now out of a balcony, now went down to the front door. In this way, the poor one goes through the rooms just shortly or in passing, and therefore she knows nothing of the rule of the work it takes, of the goods which are in there, of what she can take and of what she can give. So we know the saying, take time to smell the roses. When I'm going all the way back to my whaler, I'm not going to be smelling any roses. There'll be plenty of them probably along the way, but it's just can't do it, right? I'll stop here and there for a break, have my suitable break and just get back on with it, right? But in the spiritual life, we have to stop and smell the roses. That's what we're doing in retreat. In retreat, it's the time for that. Who knows how many goods are there, and she knows nothing about it. Therefore, she does not love as she should love, nor does she esteem that palace as it deserves. Now, for the soul who lives in my will and is not completely abandoned, right? He's talking about not being completely abandoned in it. Self-reflections, cares of herself, fears, disturbances are nothing other than the windows, the balconies, the front doors that she forms in my will. And going out very often, she is forced to see and feel the miseries of human life. And since the miseries are her own property, while the riches of my will are mine, she becomes more attached to the miseries than to the riches. So she will not love nor enjoy the meaning of living in my will. That's the trap we live in this modern world. It's just because it's so easy to get so distracted with all the other things. Thank God we've got the opportunity to go and retreat. And since she formed the main entrance, one day or another, she will go out to live in the miserable hovel of her own will. See then how complete abandonment in me is necessary in order to live in my will. Okay? So see how complete abandonment in me is necessary in order to live in my will. We know Father Delinda's got the surrender prayer. I surrender to you, right? That's all part of that. It's part of that idea of complete abandonment. My will does not need the miseries of the human will. It wants the creature to live together with it, beautiful, just as she was delivered from its womb. Without the miserable provision, she made herself in the exile of life. Otherwise, there would be disparity, which would bring sorrow to my will and unhappiness to the human will. Do you see how necessary it is to make them understand that complete abandonment is necessary in order to live in my will? And you say it is not necessary to write about it, because she was complaining about, do I have to write about that? He says, write the whole lot, every bit, every comma, every full stop, right? Make sure they understand it. I feel compassion for you because you do not see what I see, and that's why you take it lightly. Instead, in my all-seeingness, I see that these writings will be for my church as a new sun, capital S-U-N, as a new sun which will rise in her midst, and men attracted by its radiant light will strive to transform themselves into this light and become spiritualized and divinized, and therefore renewing the church, they will transform the face of the earth. He's talking about us. If you feel those bit of goosebumps and tingles, he's talking about us. Let's read that bit again. I see that these writings will be for my church as a new sun which will rise in her midst, and men attracted by its radiant light will strive to transform themselves into this light and become spiritualized and divinized, and therefore renewing the church, they will transform the face of the earth. That's what we're working on. Renewing the church, transforming the face of the earth. We do the human part, God does the divine part, right? The doctrine on my will is the purest, the most beautiful, not subject to any shadow of the material or of interest, either in the supernatural or in the natural order. Therefore, just like the sun in the sky, it will be the most penetrating, the most fecund, which is fertile, and the most welcome and appreciated. And being light, it will make itself understood and will make its own way. It will not be subject to doubt or suspicions of error. And if some words will not be understood, it will be because of too much light, which eclipsing the human intellect will not allow them to understand the whole fullness of the truth. We know about that when we go deeper and deeper. Wow, we certainly know about that. When we go deeper and deeper in His holy and divine will, it's like, wow, God, what are you saying here? Because He's saying it will be because we're not, and if some words will not be understood, it will be because of too much light, which eclipsing the human intellect. That's the part there, eclipsing our human intellect. It's like, wow, I can't get that in yet, God. That's why we've got to get the foundation right. Foundation, build. Then we get it, right? The next bit that's we need, right? Will not and eclipsing the human intellect will not allow them to understand the whole fullness of the truth. However, they will not find one word which is not true. At the most, they will not be able to comprehend it fully. Therefore, and we know the church has already done all this checking up, right? Father Unity was one of them, I believe, theologians of the church, who was commissioned by Cardinal Ratzinger before he became Pope. Check it out. They've checked it out more thoroughly than they've checked out anything in the history of the church, because they knew it was important. They had not 2, but 3. In the past, they've only had maximum of 2 to check out a saint, the writings and everything, find out whether we'll canonise that one. They had 3 independent theologians. Tick, tick, tick. That was done a while ago. We see how important it is and how the evil one wants to stamp it out. They bring confusion in. People start... I haven't listened to any of that confusion. I've known ever since I encountered it, this is it. My spirit knew, right? If somebody asked me how to explain it, well, later on when I get the words, I'll give it the explanation, right? That's the way we are, right? Later on when we get the words and whatever, right? This is why Father Iannuzzi is so valuable to this spirituality. He's got that gift. He's got that talent. He's got that. I'm going to be sending, when priests start waking up and getting interested, I'm going to send them to Father Iannuzzi, because if they want to know the theology, he's done it. He's got the talents for that. We don't all have that, right? Not everybody has that kind of talent. He's specialised in what he's doing, a very specialised person. And we don't have to be all specialised. Jesus actually says, be simple, okay? Hopefully I'll get to that message there, right? But we need specialised people who can have a point of authority, basically have some authority to say, yes, this is legitimate and so on. And the rest of us carry on. We don't have to have that same talent as Father Unity has. That's not necessary. We just operate the way God has given us, with our capacity. So therefore, in view of the good which I see, I push you to neglect nothing in writing. One saying, one effect, one simile on my will can be like beneficial dew upon the souls, just as dew is beneficial on the plants after a day of burning sun, or like a pouring rain after long months of drought. You cannot understand all the good, the light, the strength contained in one word, but your Jesus knows it, and knows the ones whom it will serve and the good it will do. Now, as he was saying this, he showed me a table in the midst of the church. There it is, down the back there. Have a listen to this one. He showed me a table in the midst of the church, and all the writings of the divine will placed on it. Okay. Many venerable people. There's a couple of venerable people over there, okay? And all of us, right? He's talking about us too. Many venerable people surrounded that table. I saw that when I walked in. There's many venerable people going around it. And transformed, so many venerable people surrounded that table and were transformed into light, and they were divinized. And as they walked, they communicated that light to whomever they encountered. That's what's happening. That's our mission. We come here, be amongst like-minded people to really grow, right? But when we get out there, we've got to give that to others. We've really got to give that. Communicate that light to whomever we encounter. So then Jesus added, you will see this great good from heaven. Talking to Louisa, she's looking at it. You will see this great good from heaven when the church will receive this celestial food, which will strengthen her and make her rise again to her full triumph. Magnificent. What have we got next? We've got Volume 7. Once again, Volume 7 is very strong. We want to build real strong foundation. Revise Volume 7. Really revise it. Be clear on Volume 7. So Volume 7, July 31, 1909. July 31, 1909. We're doing that with my group in Mulwala, Volume 7 at the moment. So I'll read the whole thing. It's not that long. 1906. July 31, 1906. Continuing in my usual state, my blessed Jesus came for a little while, and embracing me, he said, so this is the part Jesus is saying, my daughter, simplicity, get it? Simplicity is to virtue like spice is to food. For the soul who is plain and simple, there are no keys or doors to enter into me, or me into her. This is because she can enter everywhere into me, and I into her. And even better said, she finds herself in me without need of entering, since her simplicity resembles mine. Yep. Okay. Right, my daughter, I'll read it quickly. My daughter, simplicity is to virtue, like spice is to food. For the soul who is plain and simple, there are no keys or doors to enter into me, or me into her. This is because she can enter everywhere into me, and I into her. And even better said, she finds herself in me without need of entering, since her simplicity resembles mine. I am the most simple spirit. And this is Jesus saying it. I am the most simple spirit, and for this reason I am everywhere. Nothing and no one escapes from my hand. The plain and simple soul is like the sun's light, which in spite of the clouds or that its rays rest on some filth, always remaining light, gives light to all and never changes. Thus the simple soul can receive any mortification and displeasure, but she does not cease to be light to herself and for whomever mortifies her. If she sees evil things, she is not stained. She always remains light and never changes. This is why light's a very important analogy. You can walk through all the darkness of filth, right? But retain your light. Don't get contaminated by the filth and darkness of the world. Be in the world, but not of the world. Right? Be that light. So I'll read that again. If she sees evil things, she is not stained. She always remains light and never changes. This is because simplicity is the virtue that most resembles the divine being. And only by this virtue does the soul come to participate in the other divine qualities. Only by this virtue. So serious. Only by this virtue of simplicity does the soul come to participate in the other divine qualities. Okay. You remember Teresa of Lisieux. What are we going to write about here? Simple soul, great saint. In the simple soul, there are no impediments or obstacles to divine grace entering and working in her, because the simple soul being light and light being in the other, the light easily unites to light and is transformed into the other. But who could say all that I understood about simplicity? I feel in my mind like the sea. I am only writing a few drops of this sea, and I do so in an incomplete manner. However, thanks be to God. All right. Got more in this one. It's the same volume, September 11, 1906. Just read a couple of paragraphs there. September 11, 1906. My daughter, all the works, words and thoughts of the creatures should be marked with the stamp of Gloriam Dei, Gloriam Dei. Right? Glory of God. All the works, words and thoughts of the creatures should be marked with the stamp of Gloriam Dei, Gloriam Dei. All the works and the thoughts that are not so marked remain dark. Buried in darkness, dirty, they have no value. This way the creature does nothing but accumulate darkness and abominable things. in not working for, this is where he gets the point across, I think, in not working for the glory of God, right? If you are not working for the glory of God, one departs from the purpose for which he was created by God. So everything has to be for the glory of God. Okay, even though I offered the message for the salvation of souls, I had to correct myself and say, for the glory of God and for the salvation of souls. Because it's love God first, right? The souls come second. Even though they're extremely important, the glory of God comes first. So, do that again. In not working for the glory of God, one departs from the purpose for which he was created by God. He remains separated from God, abandoned to himself. On the other hand, as God is all light, human actions done for God's glory acquire light and value. Therefore, do not be surprised that the creature who does not work for the glory of God not only remains buried in his own darkness, acquiring nothing with his efforts, but he also accumulates great debts. Wow. We're going to remind ourselves again the important thing that he says. We do one act in the divine will. It's worth all the good that we can do in our human will throughout our entire life. Mind-boggling. And he'll mind-boggle us even further, as you know, because he says one act of the divine will is more than all the creatures in humanity, past, present, future, the whole accumulation of it, right? It's worth more than all the good that all humanity can do. Why? Because one act in the divine will is infinite, perfect, eternal. All that accumulation of the human acts done, good acts done in the human will are not infinite, perfect, and eternal. They're just not infinite, perfect, eternal. Simple as that. That's the logic of it. They still fall short of being infinite, perfect, and eternal because it's only working on the imperfect human will. All right? This is why everything we do in terms of trying, desiring, all that desiring, right? Learning and knowledge of his holy divine will, desiring. We're not wasting one little bit of time.
Could you repeat that sentence again, Father?
Which one?
The desire.
So
One act in the divine will.
Oh, one act in the divine will? Yeah, so one act in the divine will is worth more than all the acts we can do in our own human will for our entire life. Not only that, it's one act in divine will is worth more than the whole of humanity, all added up together. All the human acts they've done in their, all the good things they've done in their human will. It's talking about good things, right? Doing good things, but doing them with the human will, which is not infinite, perfect, eternal. One act in the divine will is worth more than the whole lot put together. All the good that we can possibly do in our human will, one act in the divine will is worth more than the whole lot. So can I do one act, God, please? That's a prayer. We need that prayer, to have that seriousness of it, right? Simplicity, right? And then can I do another one? Another act, and then can I do more? And keep moving and moving and moving and moving in there. Just keep moving in it, right? Don't fall into the trap of I've got it all sorted out and I'm spectacular and whatever. Have you been fasting? Have you been doing your self-denial? Have you been carrying a cross? We've got to go back. Always got to reflect on the basics. Have I been denying myself, taking up my cross, following him, right? All that sort of thing. Loving God, loving my neighbour. Okay. Time's running out for this. Let's see what he's got, and then we'll stop for a break. Okay, good. This is same volume, September 16, 1906.
What volume is that?
It's volume 7. If it pleases you, I would like to know how these things relate to me. You know the state of violence, Louise is talking, you know the state of violence in which I see myself when I am with people, because only with you I am at peace. She's only at peace when she's with Jesus. Furthermore, I cannot, that makes sense, right? Furthermore, I cannot understand why they want to be with me, since I am such a peasant and do not use anything to attract them. Rather, I fervently wish only that I could always be alone. Now, this is the important part I want to get to. That's just to prepare for it. Then Jesus said to me, "My daughter, the clear, simple and bare truth is the most powerful magnet to attract hearts, disposing them to meet any sacrifice for the love of truth and the persons who reveal that truth. Who made it possible for the martyrs to spill their blood? The truth. Who has given the saints the strength to maintain a pure and chaste life in the midst of so many battles? The truth." We know who the truth is. "I'm the way, the truth and the life." Jesus. He's talking about himself, but it's from a different angle, right? So read that bit again. Then Jesus said to me, "My daughter, the clear, simple and bare truth is the most powerful magnet to attract hearts, disposing them to meet any sacrifice for the love of truth and the persons who reveal that truth. Who made it possible for all the martyrs to spill their blood? The truth. Who has given the saints the strength to maintain a pure and chaste life in the midst of so many battles? The truth. It is the bare truth, simple and disinterested, that makes people want to come to me. Ah, my daughter, how difficult it is to find someone who can manifest the bare truth even among the clergy, the religious and devout souls. In their speech, the works, there is always something human, of interest and of other things, and the truth is manifested as covered and veiled." Wow. Consequently, the person who listens to it is not touched by the bare truth, but by whatever other human purpose the truth is enveloped in. Hence, that person does not receive the grace and influence which the truth contains. So the truth has got grace and influence. Truth carries grace. Life of God. Jesus is the truth. It's all logical. All very logical when you meditate on that. This is the reason why so many sacraments of confession are wasted, profaned and without fruit. I do not withhold giving them the light of truth, but they do not receive it. The cause is they think that they think that if they say the naked truth, they would lose their prestige and honour and would no longer be liked. He didn't say honour. He says they would lose their prestige and would no longer be liked, that they would no longer have those human satisfactions, and that there would result the loss of their interests. But oh, how mistaken they are. Okay? So this is because whoever leaves everything for the love of truth will have a superabundance of everything and will have much more than the others. Consequently, every time you can, never forget to manifest the bare and simple truth. Read that again. Consequently, all of us, right? Consequently, every time you can, never forget to manifest the bare and simple truth. And repeat it again and again and again. Why not? So people get the message. However, it is understood that you are to always be obedient to the one who directs you when the opportunity arises for you to manifest the truth. I'll stop there. That's our time up. So we're going to stand up, walk around a bit. How much time will we have, do you think, Maxine? 5 minutes? No, I'm talking about the break. How much break? Sorry? 5 minutes for the break. We've got 5 minutes for the break, and then because we need to spend time with questions